Fellas, it is Christmas time, which means that for every major European football league, they say go home, take some time with your family, be with the wife and kids, and just unwind for the holiday season. Except for in England, where they say, you know what, screw all that. As a matter of fact, we're going to make you play 2 games a week instead of 1. How you like them apples? 14 games into the Premier League season, plenty of storylines to talk about. A really unusual top 4 that features Leicester City and Everton. Leeds United back in the top flight for the first time in 14 years. Arsenal Football Club, led by Mikel Arteta, somehow fighting off relegation come the turn of the new year. Plenty of stuff to talk about. Here's how we'll do things. 20 Premier League clubs. We're going to sit down and talk about all of them, what they've done well, what they've done poorly, strengths, weaknesses, and then we'll give them a grade based on how they've done from September up until now. I didn't want to go just 1 through 20 on the table, though. That would have been pretty obvious. A, B, B, C, D, F, and so on. And I didn't want to go alphabetically, so what I did was I just went to random.org, put all 20 teams into a list, and it gave me a 1 through 20 completely randomized. Here it is, and that's how we'll do things. I'm actually very pleased with this list that random.org gave us here. They shuffled things up pretty nicely. You know what they say, 26 times the charm. Let's start at the beginning. Manchester United. Don't look now, but this is a team that is 5 points off the top with a game in hand. They could be looking up 2 points below Liverpool if they win that game in hand. They've only dropped 2 points since that 1-0 loss to Arsenal almost 2 months ago. It's been an incredible run of form since a really shaky start to the season for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's men. The only knock that I have against them this far, they've yet to record that really big win. Like I said, they lost to Arsenal. We all remember that 6-1 drubbing at the hands of Spurs. They've drawn with City. They've drawn with Chelsea. B+ for Manchester United, but if they continue this run of form and get that win against a traditional Big Six club that can really cement their status as a title contender, certainly in the A pile. Another big club, Chelsea. Listen, we all expected to see some growing pains with this team, especially early in the Premier League season. They brought in so much talent, especially in the attacking department. Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, Hakim Ziyech, and we're still seeing some of those growing pains. This is a team that, up until a 3-0 win against West Ham a couple weeks ago, had not beaten a team in the top half of the table. Whenever this team has won or taken points, it seems to always be based on individual talent and less about tactics, and that's a testament to just how difficult it's been for Frank Lampard to implement all of these players into the same attacking system. For me, Chelsea gets a B. They still do have the second most goals scored in the Premier League. They still are a very, very dangerous side that if they get their shit together, we could be talking about Chelsea in a potential title race come April or May. That's if they sort out these growing pains and figure out the best way to implement every player they brought in over the summer. West Bromwich Albion. Let's get this one over quickly. Listen, this is just not a fun side to watch. I mean, they finished second in the championship last year, earned automatic promotion with Leeds, but we expected them to be near the drop zone or in the drop zone. That's exactly where they've been all season long. Just 1 win in their last 14, 10 goals scored, 29 goals conceded. For me, West Brom are a D-, teetering with an F. The only reason they're not an F is because they're not dead bottom, but maybe, we know Big Sam's done it before. We know he's gotten these relegation threatened teams out of the drop zone. Maybe he can do it again. But based on what they've done so far, it's been nothing to be optimistic or inspired by if you're a Big Sam or any West Brom supporter. The only team statistically worse than West Brom this season has been Sheffield United. Listen, this has been such a disappointing fall from grace for me with Sheffield United. They were such a fun team to watch last year. I thought a team that was fighting for the European places after being a newly promoted side. We were expecting them to finish 20th. They were up in 5th, 6th, 7th place. 2 points in 14 matches for Chris Wilder at Sheffield United. It will take a heroic attempt to see them escape the drop zone. Unfortunate for them. They were such a fun story last year, but it's obvious this is not the same team. Sheffield United, I don't see how they can get anything other than an F for what they've done so far this season. Aston Villa, take a bow. First and foremost, Dean Smith at Aston Villa. What a team this has been so far this season. Jack Grealish not leaving for Manchester United, maybe the move of the summer, and it's not even one that happened. Listen, Aston Villa were fighting off relegation a season ago. They only escaped the drop zone on the final day of the season. Now they've spent time in the top 4, and they're consistently fighting for these European places. They have looked so good for me. This finally looks like a team led, of course, by Jack Grealish, but the pieces around them are there. We didn't necessarily see that last season when they were finishing 17th. They won against Wolves. They won against Arsenal, Leicester, Liverpool, of course, that famous 7-2 Liverpool win that is impossible to forget. I truthfully don't think Aston Villa have put a foot wrong this season since things got underway again back in September. For me, Aston Villa get an A+, and it's not because they've been better necessarily than a side like Liverpool or or Leicester or Spurs or Chelsea. It's because what they've done relative to where they were expected to be. This is a team that has seen time in the top 4, and they're consistently in that 1 through 6, 1 through 7 range. And oh, by the way, 2 games in hand. If they win both of those, they'll jump up to 2nd place in the Premier League. A+ for Aston Villa. Round of applause. Take a bow, Dean Smith. What a step down we're taking. Aston Villa to Burnley. Listen, if I was making this video last week, Burnley would have an F as well, along with Sheffield United. But fair play to them. They played against Wolves. They won that match 2-1, and they looked in control for really the whole match. Wolves, of course, were playing without Raul Jimenez, but it was still a very, very good win for Burnley, who were fighting off relegation as well. But what it comes down to is this is just not an inspiring side to watch either. They're the only team in the Premier League that have failed to score in over 50% of their matches. Sheffield United haven't done that. Fulham haven't done that. West Brom haven't done that. Burnley have. Joint fewest goals scored in the Premier League. Their tactics seem to be sitting back, soaking up pressure, and then when they get the ball, launching the ball up the pitch and praying, essentially. And largely it hasn't been working, aside from those 2 goals they grabbed against Wolves over the weekend. Burnley, for me, get a D. Leeds United, Bielsa ball in the Premier League, finally, and it's come exactly as advertised. The one stat that I can use to sum up how Bielsa ball works, if you're not familiar with it, Leeds United currently conceded the most amount of goals in the Premier League, more than any team in or near the drop zone. They're also top 5 in goals scored. It's such a high energy affair whenever this team is taking on anybody. 14th place for any newly promoted side would be fine, if not a good thing, but I think everybody can agree, Leeds United or not, your ordinary newly promoted side, this is a team that expects to be competing for anything regardless of what competition they're in. I give them a C, but certainly plenty more room to improve in the second half of the season. Newcastle United, Steve Bruce. Listen, the Magpies have done pretty much everything you would have expected them to do, whether it be win, lose, or draw. Callum Wilson is proving to be maybe the bargain signing of the Premier League. He's been quietly one of the better strikers in the Premier League. 8 goals in 12 appearances for Steve Bruce's men at Newcastle. It's no Kylian Mbappe. It's no Edison Cavani. That's what they thought they were getting 12 months ago when the takeover news was swirling. He's not them, but he's certainly been producing for a Steve Bruce side that is pretty devoid of attacking talent aside from him, so he's been finding the back of the net, which has been good. Newcastle get a C+ for where they are. Southampton, for me, have been one of, if not the most exciting and the most fun Premier League teams to watch this season. Obviously led by Danny Ings, who was surprisingly near the top of the scoring charts in the Premier League last season. But Che Adams has turned into a very good striker, a very good complement to Ings in the number 9 role, and James Ward-Prowse may have a shout at Team of the Season if he continues playing the way he's playing. Southampton currently 7th, but they've spent time in the top 4. They spent plenty of time near the top 4, and that 2 through 7, 2 through 8 is so tight. I wouldn't be surprised to see them back there in 2 or 3 weeks' time. The biggest knock on them, and the only reason why they're not an A, is because they've yet to record that big trademark win, but they pushed Chelsea to the wire in a 3-3 draw. They pushed Man City to the wire in a 1-0 loss. That big win is coming. Mark my words. That big win is coming for Ralph Hasenhüttl and Southampton. For now, they get a B, but I could very much see them climbing into that A column if they do continue this run of form. West Ham United have been extremely deceptive in the Premier League this season. They're currently in 10th, and so that may make you want to say, oh, this is just another mid-table side that isn't doing much of anything. But their results have really been very impressive. They had a 3-match stretch, a win, draw against Leicester, Spurs, City, and the next match was a 1-goal loss to Liverpool. They're in virtually every game that they play. They've gotten points off of some of the biggest clubs in the Premier League. The only losses they've taken have been to Big Six sides and to Everton. It's been a really strong turnaround for a West Ham side that saw themselves in 16th place last year, certainly lower than where they want to be. You have to assume 10th is probably more their range. They get a B for me strictly based on that. They've gotten some really impressive results against some teams they are not supposed to be beating or taking points off of in general. Another London club, Crystal Palace. Fellas, Wilf Zaha might be back. I mean, seriously, we're talking about a player who may be the most important player to any club in the Premier League based on how he's played this season. 7 goals, 2 assists in 12 appearances for Palace so far. I really like Jeffrey Schlupp on the other side as well. Flies a bit under the radar with Zaha playing down the left, but Schlupp, a player with a bit of pace on him, likes to dribble, very effective down that right-hand side if you're not paying attention to him. That being said, the player that is the most fascinating for me in this Crystal Palace side, the new midfielder from Queen's Park Rangers, Eberechi Eze. He's shown flashes of becoming a superstar that he was tapped to become back when he was with QPR in the Championship. He's getting consistent minutes in this Crystal Palace side. He's looked very good, and he's only gotten better. Could turn into a real potential team of the season candidate. Not this year, but a little bit down the road. He's got the talent to do that, whether it be with Palace or with somebody else. Big wins against Manchester United and Southampton, embarrassing losses to Burnley, and of course the 7-0 loss to Liverpool just a few days ago. For me, it's a C because of those results, but certainly they have the individual talent to climb that ladder a little bit as the season progresses. Before we start to talk about Arsenal Football Club in this video, if you are of age, go out and grab yourself a cold one and crack it open for your local Arsenal fan, because they're going through some shit, fellas. This has been horrible by every definition of the word, the product that Arsenal Football Club have put on the pitch this season for all the Arsenal supporters. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang looks completely lost after signing a 3-year extension in the summer. Willian has been absolutely dead. That free transfer that everybody was gassing up so much, he's done absolutely nothing aside from 3 assists on the season opener against Fulham. He's done absolutely nothing since. Alexander Lacazette seemingly can't get off the bench no matter how hard he tries. There's no discipline. Xhaka and Gabriel both received red cards in the last 3 or 4 games. Nico Pepe even before that. There is absolutely no creativity going forward for this team in attack. They've scored 2 goals from open play since October? It's been absolutely piss poor from Mikel Arteta and from Arsenal. Simply not good enough. This is coming from a Tottenham Hotspur fan who thinks he enjoys what he's seeing, but even still, I'm not entirely sure if I'm happy or if I feel bad for everybody who supports Arsenal. This team will not get relegated, but the fact that we're even half entertaining the possibility of Arsenal Football Club finishing in the bottom 3 and going down to the championship, I think is a testament to just how poor things have been this season and how pessimistic Arsenal fans deserve to be based on the first 4 months of this season. Arsenal, you get an F, obviously. Actually, no, you get an F-, and if I could go any lower, I would. Let's transition into one of the most exciting sides in the Premier League this season, and that's been Everton. Everton wins against all 3 of the major London clubs, Arsenal, Chelsea, and Spurs. Also a win against Leicester, a draw with Liverpool in that Merseyside derby earlier in the season. They've spent all season at or near the top 4, which is not what we were expecting Carlo Ancelotti to have these men, especially come Christmas time, but Christmas time, especially by Christmas time, largely because of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who is having such a breakthrough season. He's become such a joy to watch, leading the lines for Everton. I believe he's only behind Mohamed Salah in the Premier League Golden Boot race as of right now. Incredible what he's been able to do. Richarlison continuing to prove why he's one of the best players, not only in the quote-unquote other 14 in the Premier League, but in the Premier League as a whole. He's been exceptional. This is an exciting team to watch. Obviously, they brought in James Rodriguez over the summer, which is exciting in and of itself. He's hardly even played. Imagine this Everton team when he gets back and gets regular minutes in that Everton midfield. This is going to be a fun team to watch, and just because they're not one of those traditional Big 6 teams does not mean they won't be competing for the top 4. Absolutely a side you should be looking out for come March and April. I totally forgot to give Everton the grade. Everton get an A-. Fulham, led by former Spurs midfielder Scott Parker, the team that won promotion to the Premier League through that championship playoff. They beat Brentford in the final. That's what got them here. Things looked really bleak for Fulham back on the first day of the season. If you remember back to that drubbing they took at the hands of Arsenal at Craven Cottage 3-0. It took them almost 2 months to get their first win. But since then, things have looked not great for Fulham. They're still in 18th. They're still in the relegation zone, but unbeaten in 4 of their last 5, and that includes an impressive win against Leicester and a draw against Liverpool. I'm sure we all remember that 1-1 draw at the Cottage that Fulham were able to hold Liverpool to. They've taken some really impressive points in the past month or so. Not saying things are going to be great for Fulham. They're still one of the favorites to drop down, I think, but what they've done recently is enough to get them out of that F tier. I'm going to give Fulham a D+, just because what they've done recently, it looks like they're starting to come together a little bit. Scott Parker is starting to have a little bit of a better grasp on managing in the Premier League, and like I said, unbeaten in 4 of their last 5. That's not something I don't think we'll be able to say about those relegation rivals, those the Sheffield Uniteds, the West Broms, the Arsenals. Should we have that conversation come April or May? It's been a really impressive run of form for Fulham, and for that they get a D+. Let's talk about him. Let's talk about him and his club, Jose Mourinho and his tricky Lily Whites, who after spending close to a month at the top of the table are now down in 6th. I think if football matches were 75 minutes long, we're talking about a Spurs team that's comfortably sitting at the top of the table. Obviously, they're not. They're 90 minutes long, and this Spurs team have conceded so many goals in the latest stages of games. One of the worst teams in the last 15 minutes in terms of goals conceded in the Premier League. We all remember that Manuel Lanzini crack to make things 3-3 against West Ham. The Callum Wilson penalty when Spurs were going against Newcastle in the 96th minute. Obviously, the Roberto Firmino header to give Liverpool a 2-1 win in the 90th minute. All of those moments were so easily avoidable. And for some reason, Jose Mourinho has these guys playing so well for 75 minutes, and then things just fall apart in the last 15. They've given up, if not double-digit points, close to double-digit points based on those shoddy goals in the 85th, 90th minutes. Crystal Palace also is another example that quickly comes to mind. That being said, Jose Mourinho did have these guys staring down on 19 clubs for close to a month. I think 3.5 weeks. Spurs were sitting at the top of the Premier League. Harry Kane and Heung-min Son are the most lethal duo, the most lethal attacking duo on the planet. I will hear absolutely no arguments. Tottenham get a B+, but really frustrating because up until the Leicester game, maybe up until the Liverpool game, this was absolutely an A+ side. But a couple dodgy results and, of course, their inability to close out games drops them into that B tier. Manchester City, a team making all of us look foolish. All of us who picked Man City to finish P1 in the Premier League back before the season started. It is not a good look when the team you picked to win the Premier League is sitting in 8th place come Christmas time, but that's exactly the situation that we've been presented here with Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. They just look out of ideas, truthfully. It's not that they've been poor, but they lack that incisiveness that we were so used to seeing from those Guardiola teams of that century mark team, the team that beat out Liverpool by a point 2 years ago. It's something, a switch has been flicked off, and obviously it's common knowledge now that Raheem Sterling is a shell of what he was 2 or 3 years ago. Sergio Aguero has spent plenty of times injured. He's an absolute difference maker when he's on the pitch for Manchester City. But there's something about this team that doesn't feel as dangerous as ones in the past. They don't have a really significantly poor result aside from a 1-1 draw with West Brom, but they have scored the fewest amount of goals out of any side in the top half of the Premier League, and there is reason for that. This is a team that is not a bad side by any means, but the results have been poor. They're sitting in 8th place. They should be 7 places higher. It's a D+ for me for Manchester City, because we should not be talking about a City team at the very least outside of the top 4, but a team outside of the European places entirely after 4 months. Something is going wrong. Pep Guardiola, fix it, because this team is not on trajectory to even qualify for the Europa League if things continue this way. I thought they were going to run away with the title, and what we've gotten is not that. So D+ for the Citizens. I am going to make some waves here when I talk about Brighton and Hove Albion, and probably make some enemies as well, because this is not a team, if you ask me, that should be sitting 17th place in the Premier League. No, this is a team that should be significantly higher than that, based on the individual talent and the results and the way that matches have gone. They've been in every single match that they've played. Aside from a 3-0 loss to Leicester, they've been in every single match they've played. Analytically, if you want to look at some of the statistics, this is a team that, based on expected points, should be 5th in the Premier League. Obviously, they should not be, in real life, they should not be sitting 5th place in the Premier League, but that is a testament to just how much talent this team actually has and how well they've played in matches that they have not gotten results from. For me, Brighton have done everything correctly except get that final product. They did some really good business in the summer, bringing in Joel Veltman from Ajax. I thought was an exceptional move. Bringing in Adam Lallana from Liverpool. Obviously, we know Bissouma and Lamptey, two of the best young talents in the Premier League. For me, and brace yourselves, because the 17th place side should not be getting this much love, I give Brighton a C+. And before you click off this video, understand this is a team that, like I said, they've done everything necessary. They've put all the pieces in place to go on a run in the second half. Not a run to the European places, but certainly a run to survive comfortably. If they don't do that, you can come back to this video and criticize me for it. But I am so high on this Brighton side. I think they've gotten so unlucky. Advanced analytics would agree with me in that regard. So I give Brighton a C+, even if they haven't been able to get that final result. They've been in every single match they've played. They were really close with Spurs and Liverpool specifically. And again, aside from that terrible Leicester loss, they've given every single team they've played a real run for their money. Liverpool, top of the table, even with all the injuries they've faced. Jurgen Klopp again proving why he's the best manager on the face of the earth. I'm pretty sure every player in their starting 11, obviously Virgil van Dijk is the big one and the long-term one, but I'm pretty sure every single player in their starting 11 has missed time due to injury for one reason or another, and they're still looking down on 19 clubs in the Premier League. Absolutely exceptional exceptional scenes at Anfield. If you take away that 7-2 loss to Aston Villa, we're talking about the team with the joint best defensive record in the Premier League, only 12 goals conceded. Obviously, you can't just take away a result like that, but if you remove that one poor performance, this is a team that has played exceptionally well defensively. Diogo Jota has been a revelation since his move from Wolverhampton Wanderers. Mohamed Salah may have a shout at Premier League Player of the Year. The only reason that Liverpool are not sitting with Aston Villa in the A+ tier is because of that Villa result. Villa killed them head-to-head. Obviously, you still would back Liverpool 7 out of 10 times to get a result against Aston Villa if you repeated that scenario, but that's not what happened earlier this season. Liverpool, though, I mean, you cannot criticize them. Liverpool, for me, been the second most impressive team in the Premier League based on the hand they've been dealt. So they get an A, a very comfortable A, maybe on the edge of an A+, but I've just been so impressed by Aston Villa that I have to give the only A+ to them. Liverpool get an A. Wolves are a bit of an interesting situation because they're a bit lower, I think, than we all expected them to be, currently sitting 11th in the Premier League, but they've also been weathering the loss of their striker, Raul Jimenez, one of the best strikers in the Premier League. Since he went down in that match against Arsenal, that was a match that Wolves won. After that, 4 matches, 3 losses, 1 win. So it has not been great for Wolves since Raul Jimenez went down with a fractured skull. They did grab, though, to their credit, an impressive win against Chelsea last week, that 2-1 game that they stole at the death from Lampard's Blues. Their record, though, 6 wins, 2 draws, 6 losses, suggests bang average. That's exactly where they are. I give Wolves a C for what they've done so far this season. Good way to round this thing out. Leicester City, back in the top 4 after a really disappointing collapse at the end of last season. Obviously, they were in the top 4 places when the Premier League restarted, and then just went on a horrid run of form to drop them out of the top 4 entirely. They're back there. It looks like they may be there to stay. 9 wins in 14 matches, 2 of those wins coming against Spurs and Man City. 2 very impressive wins for Brendan Rodgers' men. Jamie Vardy again proving why he's one of the best strikers, not just in the Premier League, but on the planet. James Maddison has emerged as a very, very special number 10 for this Leicester side. For me, Leicester get an A, currently sitting 2nd place, could be 3rd if United win their game in hand, but still, Leicester City in the top 4 by Christmas time. Exceptional scenes at the King Power Stadium. I'm very happy to see them back in that top 4 conversation, because it's where they belong when you look at the team that this talent that what did I say? When you look at the talent that this team has, not when you look at the team that this talent has. Leicester are a very exciting side. They should be in the top 4 conversation until the end of the season, and for me, they get an A. There you have it. Grades for all 20 Premier League sides up until the Christmas period. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you agree with me, disagree with me. I'm sure I said some things about some teams that the fans are not too pleased about. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you liked what you saw, please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter at WillFowler5, and check out London's Finest as well. London's Finest is a show that me and 2 of my buddies do. We do this exact same thing 3 days a week on Twitter and on Periscope, so check it out. Again, the name London's Finest. I'll link all of that in the description. I hope you have a happy and healthy holiday season. I hope your club gets all the results you want them to, unless they're playing against Spurs, and I'll see you in the next video.